Good afternoon. On behalf of myself and the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 43, I would like to offer our condolences to the family of Comrade Marion. I've known Marion most of my life, my adult life especially, although I did not know her personally until approximately 15 years ago when I became acquainted with her through the Legion. And since that time, I've had quite a few visits with her at home, especially around Christmas time, and when she was hospitalized, when I was permitted to get in due to COVID. But I always found her, she welcomed me with a smile, and if she was doing a crossword puzzle, which most likely she was, she'd set it aside and we'd have a little chat. And I always found her very friendly and very humorous and very intelligent. For her age, she was very smart. And, you know, over the years, as time went on, of course, her health deteriorated, which is only natural. But Marion used to attend our branch for our banquets and ceremonies. And she always met her old friends and acquaintances there and socialized with them. And we were very honored to have her at the branch. She was also a very dedicated lady. Starting out, she dedicated her life to the service of her country during the war, and then to her family and her community. So you can't ask for much more of anybody but that. Marion was also our last Second World War veteran associated with Branch 43. And we thank her for her service. And I, myself, a service officer during those years, I was very honored to try to assist her in any way I could. And with that, I'm going to close with the act of remembrance. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Thank you very much.
Okay, everybody, thanks for coming. Please go eat something. And now we're going to just celebrate Marion's life and keep on going. Let's go. Everybody up. Come on, let's go eat.
So enjoy health.
She was a daughter, a sister, wife, mother, aunt, grandmother, and great-grandmother, and a friend. When I think of her baking, her stories, her love, her strength, and it wasn't until I started to write all this down and pull up some memories that I realized how much she had taught me. She grew up surrounded by her siblings and her cousins, and after the war ended, her and Grampy were married, and she was again surrounded with family, with Liz and my dad, and all the nieces and nephews of Langley Circle. She said they all shared a door, a back door. She enjoyed the simple things like afternoon picnics, days at the beach swimming, camping on the weekends, making snowmen each year, which Martin tried to convince her needed to have 2 faces so that he could see one from the bottom of the hill. When she wasn't baking, she was reading or doing some Sudoku or some sort of puzzles. She helped Dad study for his millwright exams, and she spent so much time helping Dad study and quizzing Dad, she was pretty sure that she could have passed the millwright exam herself. I spent every lunchtime with her from primary to grade 12. I went down every day for lunch. She ensured that I was fed and I was happy, and I was sometimes used as a guinea pig for new recipes to see how they work. And each lunch hour we would play cards. She taught me 45s and crib and a bunch of other card games, and I'm pretty sure that's how I ended up becoming an accountant. She was also the bookkeeper for Grampy's store, and I remember when we would count some of the money, she would help me count the money. So yeah, I think she kind of instilled that in me before I realized. She also taught me to be strong and that I could do anything that I put my mind to. 19 months ago, she moved from her house here on Granville Street to the Admiral in Dartmouth, only about 10 minutes away from my place. I tried to visit at least twice a week, and during our visits, we would go through some of her old photos, which would always trigger a new memory and a story or two. We were always smiling and laughing at the adventures that she'd had and the people that she had encountered. I will forever cherish those stories with her in that time. Memories of trips to her own grandmother's house in Sunnyside with Helen, taking the boat out with Art, Ellis, Vivian and Elliot, of Aunt Maddie's time out west, of Grandpa AJ, and his antics, her time as a wren, and of all of the kids, Dad and Liz, and all of her nieces and nephews. She loved you all. So many stories. One of the stories she recounted was a poem that hung at Grandpa's house. It started with, "Let me live in a house by the side of the road, and did I know it?" She loved that poem. She didn't know where Grandpa had come by it, but he had found it somewhere and he had put it in a frame, a rather crooked frame. But she loved that. So that's where you'll see that poem. She really loved that poem. They say that the first thing that you forget about a loved one is the sound of their voice. So I'd like to share with you what I've had the pleasure of hearing for these past 19 months and for the past 50 years. Nanny telling you a story.
No, I think I'm going to tell them, but I didn't know what they were. And she said, I'll show them to you. So Dee was at the end of the table, this on both sides, you know?
Yeah.
And she was telling us she had a hip operation. And she got behind Dave, pulled up her seat. Show us. You know from that.
So those berries, were they gooseberries?
No, they weren't gooseberries. There were some other kind of berries. I can't remember what they were. But they looked, and she went down the basement. She had some in the freezer. And they picked them. But they looked to be awful hard to pick. And they were tiny little, well, I'd say little blueberries.
Okay, yeah.
Small blueberries, smaller than blueberries.
Wow.
And, well, she had 2 different kinds of jam on the table for breakfast. Dave, of course, went for the strawberry.
Yeah.
And I said, don't try this, you'll like this. So he tried this. Yeah, that's good. It's really good.
many trips to Newfoundland did you guys take?
Oh, we were over a few times. We were over once, and we went to St. John. We drove from Port Bass to St. John. Oh, that's a long, boring drive. And then we were over again. And we went up to, well, we went someplace, but we didn't go very far up that way. I can't remember how far we were, but anyway, this was coming. My mother and father were there over one time too. We were up there. With Elizabeth, they just wanted to go in this boat. And we were going to go where there's a mountain there, and it's flat on the top, plateau on the top.
Okay.
I can't think of the mountain, but anyway, we decided
Gross Lord?
Pardon?
Gross Lord?
Gross Lord.
Yeah, okay.
And but we couldn't go because they couldn't walk it. You had to walk in certain, and they said it was hill in, so that they at that time couldn't walk. So it was a 3 or 4 hour hike, so we didn't want to leave him in the car.
Crack the window.
They was all trying, I said, no, he wants me. But I remember this woman phoned up. What you do when you go to Anthony's, and you go up along the coastline, and it's the day we were out, it was raining and blowing. And if you wanted to take a picture, you took it through the window because you wouldn't go out. And you saw the waves crashing on the shore, you know, and all this. And we got to the top that night. It's St. Anthony's. And at St. Anthony's itself, the houses, it's so rocky, there'd be 3 right together. The doors would be facing. And they wouldn't be, you know, they'd be around and and we went, and Russell was driving, he drove us to the door of it was a lighthouse that was made into a restaurant.
Okay.
Up at the tip, so you know it's far up.
Yeah.
And there was a stream going down just over from the parking lot, and we were pouring so hard, the stream was pouring over the side, and it was a sheer cliff-like, you know?
Yeah.
And it blew so hard, it was blown against the water and blown it up.
Oh my goodness.
You wouldn't believe it.
Wow.
But Russell said that he went and parked the car afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
And he said he just made it back to. And the next day we come down and it was beautiful. You saw it too.
Two completely different weathers.
It was, you think it,
Two different places.
but Russell went to work at the mill afterwards, and there was a fellow from Newfoundland there.
Yeah.
And he says, we asked Russell where it was, and he told him, he says, there's a lot of nothing there.
She really, I only recorded a little bit of her stories, but I'm glad I did. And I thought you'd like to hear one right from her. She was an amazing, strong, smart woman, and at 97 had mastered her Alexa machine. Although I think it still was astonished her at how fast Alexa could answer her questions. How does she look them up that fast? She enjoyed being able to have video chats through that machine, and she said it's as good as being there and you don't have to drive or leave your chair. She lived a long, full life and will always be a big part of my life. As we are here today and gather and we think, it's not just to grieve our loss, but to celebrate her life. She lived a full life. As we talk and visit, let's share some more memories, and she'll continue to live on in all of us.
There's so many things that make Nanny special for each of us, and I'm sure everyone has their own stories to share. For me and Stacy, she was an amazing grandmother. She was always there for us, always teaching us, and always made us feel loved. I remember as a kid walking into Nanny's house after a long drive, after the joy of seeing her and Grampy and giving out hello hugs. There was the excitement of seeing the surprises hidden in our cupboards, in the front porch, in the candy jars. Nanny knew how to welcome people and make them feel loved. She was always warm and inviting, and she knew that a simple gesture, like a chocolate chip cookie, could make anyone feel at home. She worked hard at making us amazing meals and fabulous treats, and every holiday she would make sure there were several types of pies, so each person had their favorite. As a kid, it amazed me watching her make all these things from scratch, and I loved to join in and help by licking the bowls. To this day, I have not met anyone who has such a ginormous bucket of flour under their cap. Though unaware as a child, her domestic homemaking skills were instilled in me, to which my wife is constantly surprised and envious of my aptitude for baking and homemaking. Nanny had a love of the outdoors and adventure, whether it be skidooing, camping, swimming, or just picking wild berries from the field. She always seemed to be on the move and ready to take us on the next adventure. On our camping trips, we would always go for long walks, and while exploring the world around us, we would talk for hours about everything. She would tell us stories about her childhood and the antics she and Helen got into, tell us funny things that our parents did when they were kids, and would break out in a wonderful laugh. In the evening, we always played a card or board game, though it was futile trying to beat her in Scrabble, and we laughed some more. Nanny loved all those around her and always wanted to know what was going on in our lives. She would listen to the stories we had to tell her and seem more in tune with the world than most people half her age, even to the point of telling her great-grandson how to find the Pokemon of the day on Alexa. She had a way of engaging and relating to people that really made me feel heard. Nanny was so ingrained in everyone's lives, no matter your age, whether you are a friend, a neighbor, or a family. She had a way of relating to everyone. She was kind and loving, and filled her house with a warmth that makes you feel safe and comfortable. We miss her presence, but the time we spent and the fond memories we share will always have a presence in our hearts. Thank you.
I have a funny story. It's a short one.
Stand up, Amber. No, you are.
I am.
I'm sorry.
We went to visit Marion in the Admiral in June. And we sat talking, chatting with her. When we went in, she was sitting reading, no glasses on that I can remember. And anyway, we got into the discussion about age. And she said, you know, I never really realized that I was getting as old as I am until all three of us, Russell, Elizabeth, and I, were on the old age pension together.
I have one, before John starts. Last year when we did her birthday party at Stacy's, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to what the heck. Anyway, after the party was all over and all relatives and everybody were had gone home and we were driving her back to the Admiral, she said to us that night, "Oh my God, some of your relatives are starting to look old." Yeah, she had a great win. Yeah, she really did. John?
Marion was my aunt by marriage. She married my father's younger brother, David. As a kid growing up, they were our next-door neighbors. One of the earlier summertime memories of Marion was that she would often load the car with kids and take us swimming at Troy Beach. This was a real treat. Another fond memory was that Marion liked to make candy and share it with the neighborhood kids. We were all cousins. I'm disappointed in myself that I did not really appreciate Marion until much later in my life. I guess that was because I became too involved in my own world and took a lot for granted. Marion always enjoyed kids. One of her favorite pastimes was to sit in a recliner and watch our grandchildren and their friends coasting down the hill and playing in the field. What really amazed her was watching how the kids could play on the frozen ground in their bare feet. After Dave passed away in 2011, I eventually made it a habit of going to visit Mary most Sundays after church. I quickly learned she loved King's coffee and a muffin. I made sure I always brought one with me in the beginning. I was a little apprehensive, as I didn't know what we could talk about. These visits made me realize what a special person Mary really was. Mary was in her 90s. Her mind was as sharp as a whip. She had a fantastic memory for dates, names, and events. She was an avid reader and was up to date on political and current events. You could talk to her about anything. She was always interested in what you had to say. Mary talked about her childhood memories of visiting her grandparents in Sunnyside and down the shore from Albright. Mary and her cousin, Vivian Embry, would walk to the wharf, take the ferry to Mulgrave, and continue walking to her grandparents. For the trip home, her grandfather would give them fresh fish, wrapped in brown paper. But before they could reach Mulgrave, the brown paper would be so soggy wet, they would have to throw the fish into the harbor. This gave them a deep laugh. I remember asking Mary if she would mind if I recorded her stories. She quickly replied, "John, I'm scared I'll make a mistake." One time I asked Marion what made her decide to join the Canadian military. She said, "I had no intention of joining the military." her cousin Vivian wanted to join, and Vivian asked Marion to accompany her to the recruiting office. Marion did, and as a result of the interview at the recruiting office, Vivian was rejected and Marion was accepted. Another little story Marion shared with me was that her training was very strict, and as she was taking her training, Dave's brother Harry was also in Cornwallis taking his training. Whenever she met Harry, she would ask about Dave, and Marion was recommended for this, as they were only to use the last names.
She wasn't supposed to speak to an officer either without calling him by his proper rank.
Marion was very proud of her service, and she'd say to me, "I can still fit in my uniform." She was also aware of how important the Royal Canadian Legion is, and wanted to be sure that the Legion maintains their mission, that is, to support veterans and their families. After my visit with Marion, I always came home better and more enriched person. In all my years, I have never heard Marion say a bad or mean word about anyone, and that is a great characteristic. That was Marion. A true friend is forever a friend. We will remember that.
We're good. Peter, you were Santa Claus. A number of years ago, Peter would dress up as Santa Claus. And this one Christmas, he called us and he said, "Would Marion like a visit from Santa?" I said, "Sure, why not?" Anyway, all in his full gear, Santa and Mrs. Claus arrived down at Marion's and surprised the bejeebers out of her. She was in her pajamas. Of course, it's 7 o'clock at night. And she looked so forward to every Christmas that Santa would come and visit. And he walked in and it was ho, ho, ho. And she said, "Ho, ho, ho, Peter." Yeah, it wasn't going to happen. Yeah, it's really that. Oh, so many funny stories. Yeah. Anybody else?
Marion always hosted a big party on May 7th.
Oh, yes.
And so that was Russell's birthday. And so anyway, you need cake. And you get your piece of cake, and then inside you find a piece of wax paper. It could be a dime or a nickel or a quarter. And I remember, taking those Troy trips to the beach and drawing over the years with her.
You guys mentioned about recipes.
Yes.
We're still using the recipe for rhubarb custard pie that
Marion's rhubarb custard pie. Yes, very nice.
which is to die for, and Beverly still makes your Christmas candy.
Good. Yeah.
English toffee.
Or English toffee candy. Yeah. You make that English toffee candy, put it in boxes. If you were lucky, you got a box of candy. Anyway, she would always make sure my dad had a box of candy when he was in the nursing home. And we would go up and visit Dad and say, "Oh, no candy?" Shh. He got it hidden underneath the truck so nobody else could get it. You're very lucky you got a taste of Marion's candy. Yeah. Funny story. I remember quite a few years ago, Stace was just little, and Marion was the baker, not me. But anyway, for some reason we decided we were going to take a cake decorating class. So Barbie doll cakes were the big thing. We had this dome and stuck the Barbie doll in it and decorated the cake. Marion, of course, made the cake. And we got to class, and we were sitting side by side, and you put this cake on a spinning wheel, and with constructor toes, squeeze the bag, and get your perfect little stars all over the cake and everything. Oh, we were having a great time. At least I was having a great time, because I love frosting, so, you know, it wasn't perfect, but you just lick it off. And Marion was, ooh. Anyway, she looked at me and she said, how come your stars are so much bigger? I don't know. I said, why aren't your stars bigger? She said, I don't know. So, of course, me. I said, well, just squeeze the bag a little harder, Marion. You know, just squeeze harder. So, 20 minutes later, she's looking at me. She said, this is not working. So when the instructor came around, she said, Marion, what size tip did you put on there? Well, instead of a 9, she put on a 6, which is a lot smaller than a 9. So her perfect little stars were just tiny, tiny little stars. And mine were nice, big, fat stars. So after that, it was like, well, Stace had 2 birthday cakes that year. Easy. And lots of frosting for mine and very little frosting for me. But she loved to bake her cakes. All those fun things. Yeah.